specifically okay, so today we're diving deep into China and specifically their really strong position in the world of e-bike manufacturing.
Yeah.
We got some really interesting research here that paints a picture of how they've become so dominant.
It's incredible.
It really is. And our goal today is to try to understand, how they got here,
Right.
what are the key factors, and what does this all mean looking ahead as e-bikes keep evolving?
Yeah, and we have to recognize just how massive this market is we're talking about globally.
Yeah.
E-bikes brought in $43.59 billion in 2023.
Wow.
And the projections are just going up from there to almost $149 billion by 2032.
Huge.
Yeah. And the number of e-bikes being sold is also on a crazy trajectory.
Yeah. What's that look like?
Well, last year was 40 million units, and they're expecting that to jump to 77 million by 2030.
That's a lot of e-bikes.
It's a significant amount of growth, and China is really at the center of it all.
Yeah. I mean, their market share is just mind-blowing.
It is.
I mean, almost 32% of the global value in 2023, and even bigger when you look at production.
Yeah.
Over 60% of e-bikes worldwide are made in China.
Yeah. And in the Asia-Pacific region, their usage share is over 90%.
That's incredible. So how did they manage to achieve this?
Well, the research points to a few interconnected factors.
Okay.
I think the first one that we have to talk about is their supply chain.
Okay.
It's incredibly robust. Unlike other regions that might have industries that are more fragmented.
Right.
China's industry has evolved over decades, from the traditional bicycles to electric vehicles. So this gives them really easy and cost-effective access to all the parts and raw materials they need.
So it's like a really deeply ingrained ecosystem then.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not just, assembly plants, right? I mean, the research really highlights the importance of their complete new energy vehicle industry chain. So they've got this constant supply of things like batteries and motors, often located really close to the e-bike manufacturers themselves.
Right.
I mean, there's this company, Jinyuxing Electromechanical Technology.
Yeah.
They produce over 30 million electric motors for light EVs every single year.
That's wild.
It's a crazy scale. And, that kind of scale leads to some pretty big efficiencies.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of efficiency, that leads us to the second pillar.
Okay.
Their advanced manufacturing capabilities and the sheer volume that they can produce. Right, they've invested so much in these state-of-the-art facilities. A lot of them are automated, and they have really stringent quality controls.
Right.
And you have these major hubs like Tianjin and Jiangsu province that are really central to all of this.
Yeah. Are there any particular companies that stand out?
Oh, yeah. You've got Yadea Technology Group. Their annual production capacity is over 3 million e-bikes.
Wow. I can't even imagine that many e-bikes.
It's a lot. And all of this is really underpinned by the third crucial element, the strategic government support.
Right. Because it's not just, businesses doing their thing. The government's been really involved.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The research highlights how the Chinese government saw the potential of e-bikes early on. They saw it as a way to address things like urban congestion and pollution.
Makes sense.
So they put in place all these incentives and subsidies and supportive green policies.
So how did they actually shape the demand then?
Well, I think one of the most fascinating things is that they banned motorcycles in a lot of major cities.
Oh, wow.
So suddenly there was this huge need for an alternative mode of personal transportation. And e-bikes were perfect for that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you have that. And then on top of that, the government was supporting research and development, and they were establishing industry standards.
So it really helped accelerate everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this wasn't like an overnight explosion, right?
No, it wasn't.
I mean, the research shows that they were actually doing e-bike research back in the 60s.
Yeah, but the growth was pretty slow back then.
So when did things really start to change?
Well, it seems like the late 90s were a real turning point.
Oh, okay.
You had this combination of the motorcycle bans happening, and then there were all these advancements in motor and battery technology.
Right.
And then you also have the government really prioritizing e-bikes through things like the 9th Five-Year Plan.
So all these things came together to create this perfect storm.
Exactly. And sales just skyrocketed. They went from just 40,000 in 1998 to 10 million by 2005.
Wow.
And now they're selling over 30 million a year, with nearly 300 million e-bikes actually in use.
And I imagine they're quite affordable, right?
Oh, yeah, incredibly. So they're often priced between $180 and $360.
No, it's amazing. So for the consumer, I guess this scale has really driven down global e-bike prices.
Absolutely. It's made them much more accessible. China's ability to produce such high volumes at a lower cost has had a massive impact worldwide.
But we also have to consider the impact of things like tariffs, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, in regions like the U.S. and EU, potential tariffs could definitely influence those prices in the future.
Right, but it's not just about affordability anymore.
No, it's not.
I mean, the research shows that there's this growing emphasis on innovation.
For sure.
We're seeing so many advancements in things like drive systems, like
Okay.
DJI with their Avinox systems. That's a great example of how technology from other sectors is coming into e-bikes.
It is.
And then you've got the improvements in battery technology and all these smart features,
Right.
GPS, anti-theft systems. It's incredible. And they're even producing higher-end models now, too.
Yeah, and, companies like Balfavang have become real global leaders in e-bike components.
Mm.
So it's showing that China's moving beyond just basic manufacturing.
Right. They're really becoming innovators.
Exactly.
But this dominance does create some challenges for international competitors, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's hard to enter or compete in that market.
Right.
A lot of U.S. and U.K. brands are actually relying on Chinese manufacturing. It really highlights how deeply integrated this global supply chain is.
So what's next for China's e-bike industry?
Well, the research does point to some potential challenges.
Okay, like what?
Well, you've got rising labor costs, obviously,
Mhm.
and then there's the ongoing trade tensions that we've been talking about.
Right.
And then there's the whole issue of quality standards. They need to keep improving those.
Yeah.
And then you can't forget about the environmental impact. Historically, they've used a lot of lead-acid batteries.
Mm.
So there's that. And then there's this trend towards supply chain diversification.
Right.
And, there's the possibility that the domestic market could become saturated.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of that, you've got these evolving safety regulations, both domestically and internationally.
So it sounds like they've got a lot to navigate.
They do, but what really stands out to me is China's ability to innovate.
Mm.
They just keep pushing forward in drive systems, battery tech, smart features.
Yeah.
Even motor technology like Bafang developing automatic transmissions, that's a huge advancement.
Wow.
And we're seeing them using more automotive-grade components, and they're really focusing on safety.
So they're not resting on their laurels.
No, definitely not.
So what does all this mean for our listeners?
Well, I think China's journey to becoming the leader in e-bike manufacturing is a really compelling story.
It is.
It shows what a good industrial strategy can do and how important it is to adapt to changing market conditions.
Absolutely. And with technology evolving so rapidly and global dynamics always shifting, it raises some interesting questions.
It does.
How will China maintain its position with all these challenges? And what kind of crazy innovations are we going to see next in the world of e-bikes and personal electric mobility?
It's exciting to think about.
It is definitely something to ponder. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
See ya. Bye.